So in Manhattan's Hell's Kitchen neighborhood, there lies two buildings. Located between 42nd Street and 9th Avenue, these buildings were the homes for a number of well-known people in the entertainment industry, including Alicia Keys, Larry David, Donald Faison, Terrence Howard, and many more. The buildings were originally repurposed back in the 1970s, specifically to serve those who worked in the performance arts industry with subsidized housing. A way for folks on Broadway to pursue their career while not having to worry about the high cost of living associated with the Big Apple. Currently, the neighborhood is a buzzing, desirable area as it's experienced a renaissance over the years, and the waiting list to get into the complex is incredibly long. But it wasn't always this way. Construction for the development began in 1974 by HRH Construction. The project consisted of two 45-story residential towers at opposite ends of the block, designed for middle and upper middle class rental tenants, with townhouses, shops, a health club, and parking facility in the mid-block. But during its construction, the city suffered a deep recession, and it became clear that demand for apartments like these were almost non-existent. At the time, if you walked down 42nd Street in the Times Square Theater District, the place was overrun with crime, prostitution, massage parlors, and other forms of adult entertainment. It became a playground for the underworld and an unsafe place for regular folk. With rates soaring and an increasingly bad location, all of a sudden there was no market for the apartments, and the project was deemed a failure. With one of the most important areas in New York City at risk and the city facing a major loss from the project, something had to be done. With limited options, the city applied for federal funds under the Section 8 program to repurpose the project as subsidized housing for poor and moderate income families. But of course, not without some pushback. The surrounding working class community became concerned about an influx of thousands of poor and dysfunctional neighbors. Naturally, when you introduce subsidized housing, it brings the value of the surrounding real estate down, as well as the neighborhood. Broadway theater owners would even confront Roger Starr, who was the head of housing and development at the time, threatening to sue as they feared it would further destroy the neighborhood. The city had a major problem as the building was becoming a financial disaster, as every day it would cost the city $16,000 in interest. It was then and there where real estate developer Daniel Rose came up with an idea of limiting occupancy solely to those who were involved in the performing arts. And with the apartments being only a 10-minute walk from the theaters on Broadway, the plan seemed to be a great idea. Although met with much skepticism, Rose's plan would eventually be approved with support from the city. Out of the 1,689 units, 70% would be reserved for performance arts workers, 15% for elderly and handicapped, and another 15% for the already existing tenants. Initially, even with a great deal in place, people were still reluctant to move in. But after about a year, the word spread and the project would quickly become a success, with the waitlist eventually topping 3,000 names. Between 1977 and 1979, notable actors and comedians such as Larry David and Giancarlo Esposito have moved into the plaza, paying as little as $57 a month for rent. Not only were people in entertainment moving in, but they were also working there. Samuel L. Jackson worked as overnight security for the complex. Other entertainers such as Donald Faison, Terrence Howard, and Alicia Keys were all some of the first kids growing up in the plaza. The building quickly became a legendary place and a beautiful community. You had a giant mix of people from different socioeconomic backgrounds, all sharing the elevators, lobbies, and halls. The community was well managed. Vandalism wasn't a problem, and crime was kept at bay. If people were ill or out of work, they were able to keep their apartments still due to the subsidized housing. The plan was working, and a blueprint was created. As the community continued to thrive, challenges would of course come along. When the AIDS crisis hit the city, it primarily plagued those in entertainment. According to health officials, a huge number of residents in Manhattan Plaza had died compared to any other complex in the nation. For a number of years, they would have anywhere from 90 to 100 people die from the disease. Reverend Rodney Kirk, who was the director of development, established social service programs to take care of them. As the community within Manhattan Plaza continued to grow, so did the surrounding area. The 42nd Street Nonprofit Development Corporation began purchasing properties around the area to help rescue the neighborhood. The massage parlors, porn shops, and strip clubs were replaced by 6 small theaters, with one named in memory of Reverend Rodney Kirk, who passed away in 2001. The area would be known as Theater Row. So we say all this to say, it goes to show the importance of affordable housing and community. The combination of both allows for creatives to create freely without having to worry about the burden of expenses and lack of funds. Those at the plaza were simply sharing and dreaming together, collaborating in a place that was pretty magical. Larry David, while living at Manhattan Plaza, helped create the show Seinfeld. Kenny Kramer, who was another resident at the building, became good friends with David, and his character on the show was created due to his relationship with Larry. They would often hang out at each other's unit, eating each other's food, working on projects. A young Alicia Keys got her first piano there, and Donald Faison got his first major role on the show Clueless while living there. By the early 2000s, the waitlist for the complex became as large as the buildings themselves. As Hell's Kitchen continued to thrive, the result was that it drove the property costs of the surrounding area way up. In 2003, the real estate investors that owned the plaza wanted to sell the property and make their profit. This obviously caused a lot of fear amongst the community due to the potential loss of the subsidized program in place. The related company would purchase the property in March of 2004, but the subsidy is still available. Today, the plaza remains a beacon of the Hell's Kitchen community, still known for its wide-ranging, supportive, and cultural programming. It serves as an oasis and safe place for the creative community to allow them to create openly and freely. Nothing in life is for sure, but we do hope that this experiment continues. The people who manage and operate the building, as well as its residents, created a beautiful community that goes to show that if you invest in people, great things can come from it.